Thanks for having me. Matthew Dowst, we're here to talk about the PSDates module and just working with dates and times and PowerShell in general. Um, and a big shout out to our sponsors making this possible, uh, allowing us all, around the world to come together here. So it's pretty cool. Matthew Dowst, I've been working as a managed automation architect for quite a while, author of Practical Automation with PowerShell. Got my link tree up here. Feel free to reach out to me on any social, but chances are it's M Dowst, unless that one other Matthew Dowst got a hold of it before me. But he's a surfer and I work in IT, so I usually get him first. So why PSDates? I mean, if anybody has worked with APIs or really anything, right? Dates and times and things like that can just be a huge mess. All sorts of different formats, times, if you go in between, Europe and North America, there's different formats and all those type of things. So really PSDates is designed to kind of help alleviate a lot of those headaches for you. All right. And I just kind of think they're neat. I don't know. I think I'm with time and time zones and stuff and all that fun stuff. So yeah, the import module PSDates if you want to start using a lot of the commands that we'll see here today. And with that, we'll hop straight into the demo. So, sure, everybody who's worked in PowerShell is very familiar with the get date. Right? It's your current date, or you can pass in variables to it and things like that. But sometimes to get specific things that you want to get, it can become a little difficult. For example, if you want to know what week of the year it is, it's get date, U format, percent time, uppercase V. Of course, you're going to memorize that, right? Or, want to get the first date of the current week. Again, a lot of arithmetic on there, double underscores in that property name for whatever reason. But that gets, that does get it for you. The PSDates has the command like gets date extended, right? And what this has is a bunch of already pre-calculated out things for you. So first day of the year, start of the week, start of the month, week of the year, what your time zone is, what quarter you're in. Just kind of adds additional functionality and things to the existing get date time. It accepts all the same parameters. So if you need to do custom dates, you want to find the information like that, it's all available in there with one simple, easy command. And then also, back to our the slide with the dealing with the APIs, right? So you want something in ISO 8601 format. All right, get date, to universal time, colon, to string lowercase o, right? Uppercase O is actually a different format. So I mean, again, it's those things that become difficult to kind of, if you're not using it all the time, you're not going to remember that, right? So how many people are actually, using dates in specific formats and things like that? It kind of goes. So created the date format function, which you can then specify specific formats to. And we got a whole host of them in here. It's 24-hour time, daytime. You can see, we can thumb through these. Is it a leap year? Right? Which on the surface sounds like something that's pretty simple to get. Is it divisible by 4? And then it's leap year. However, if it's also divisible by 100, then it's not a leap year. But unless it's also divisible by 400, it's, memorizing those type of things is just a pain. So get date formats. And then if you don't remember which format it is, the name of it you want, and you just the blank get date format. And here's all of the different ones that you can possibly get. So it makes, working with like APIs and things like that a lot easier to be able to get those formats and not having to memorize, the YYY dash, capital M, got a whole slew of different ones in here, pretty standard across the board ones. And as always, this is all available on GitHub. So if you have any ideas, suggestions, ones to add in here, always open for that as well. right? And besides, date formats, right? The next biggest issue that people always have is time zones, right? So just a quick find time zone commandlet in here to help you be able to find different time zones, right? So I want to go, figure out what time it is in Berlin, right? Or if you're a big Pokemon Go fan and you want to spoof yourself to the very beginning of any major event, then you can go to Christmas Island and figure out what time the new day starts every year. And then you can also use that combined together with the convert time zone, which will allow you to convert from one time zone to the other. So, putting in a date from this, Central European time to the Chapman Islands. So what time did this presentation begin on the Chapman Islands, right? Because they're 12 hours and 45 minutes ahead. So everybody can remember that one. So just quick, easy, you get your time zones, be able to convert them, and you're able to kind of move on with that. The next big thing, and this for any of those that were at the last session in this room with Christian, right? If you've used the the Graph API, I'm sure you've run into having to build out durations, right? So this is format again, it's part of the ISO 8601 standardized format. That's pretty simple, 1 day, right? But if you're doing things like I need to look at security logs between this time and that time, and you're trying to get that through your API, right? This can really help you out with any esoteric type version of the duration that you need. So there's your 2 years, 8 months, 8 days, 21 hours, 34 minutes, and 39 seconds. Quick, easy, calculate that out for you. Right. And then there's some fun ones in here as well, right? There's a Get Patch Tuesday, which is today, so beware. And then again, Get Patch Tuesday for any particular month or year that you want to be able to calculate that for. And another one, Get Easter, right? So Easter is one of those fun ones where it's not a set date every year. It is the first full moon on or after the spring equinox, unless the full moon falls on a Sunday, then it's the following Sunday, right? This kind of helps make that a little easier. And then you can even calculate it out to whatever year you want. So in 2055, it's going to be on April 18th, in case anybody needed that. Yes, I do agree with Rob. All time should be stored in UTC. The kind of a more serious one is cron tabs. So, with PowerShell being cross-platform now, there's a lot of cron jobs, cron schedulers and things out there. Right. So there's this test cron tab schedule just to see if it's a valid schedule. Right. Because everybody has, cron tabs memorized, and we all know exactly what this means. But just in case you're having an off day and you don't, right, we can actually do that. There's a great cron description in here. So 5 p.m. on Mondays is when this is going to run. And then you can even calculate out what the next occurrence of it would be, which would be this coming Monday at 5 p.m. Or if we wanted to get really fancy, we can calculate out what the next occurrence of it, or how many times it's going to occur and when in, December of 2032. So you can easily kind of check your different cron schedules and things like that before you actually build them out, right? So not only Linux, but a lot of stuff in Azure is starting to use cron schedules as well. Web apps, all those type of things are starting to lay heavily into cron. So it's a good one. Back on the Windows side, I'm sure a lot of people are familiar with this one. WMI's own special time format, right? So we got to convert from WMI date time. Get that in a nice, clean .NET, date time that anybody can read. But then we can skip back over to our good Unix friends, and we can get our Unix time or epoch time. and then convert that back as well too. So you have those times, easily convert those back. You don't have to remember that it's the number of ticks since January 1st, 1970. Another fun one too is the sun time. So you can actually calculate out your sunrise and sunset based upon your latitude, longitude, elevation, and uh, the time of year that it is, right? So currently the sun is going to set at 5:45 p.m. on Mount Everest at the peak, right? And then you can take this to go even further, right? So we can take a look at 1060 West Addison Avenue in Chicago, which is Wrigley Field. Nice Blues Brothers reference there for anybody who's familiar with that movie. And we can come back and we can actually just the simple API call that we can get our coordinates from, and we can actually calculate out exactly when the sunset is going to be there, right? So you could put this into an automation script, have all sorts of things, right? So you need to know, you got to lock your doors at sunset, those type of things that you can actually build these out and have these running through. So those are all kind of some fun, quick, easy ways to be able to manipulate and work with date times. Now, one of the biggest things that I run into when working with dates is just trying to kind of make sense of things. All right, so a real world example here is we'll go ahead and we'll get some event logs from my local machine here. We're going to take a look at some decom errors that I may or may not be having on my machine. And I can see I actually have 538 of them, and they go all the way back to December. All right, so they're happening quite often. It's kind of hard to tell exactly. Are these happening daily, or are these happening once a week? How often are these? Right? I can flip through here and try to find this and figure this all out. All right, or I can use the group timestamp commandlet. So this will allow you to pipe in a list of basically anything. So it works just like the group object. However, with the group object, if you were to try to group on a date time, right, what would happen was you would group on the actual, like all the way down to the millisecond. So essentially you would never get that in there. All right. So I say I want to, here I did it down to the day, right? But if I can do it down to the hour, right, or 12-hour increments, half days, right, and I'm be able to get this data and be able to work with that. So it's breaking those time spans up into that time, and then returning in my grouped items, right? So what can I do with this? Well, I can take this and I can come back here and get the average. So now I can see, okay, it happens about 4 times a day or so, right? So clicking on the wrong screen. There we go. It happens about 4 times a day. Pretty, easy way to come back and be able to see that. But we can take that even further, right? So another good example here is, let's go ahead and get some child items. Take a look in this folder here, this video shorts folder, all right? Which, oh, hey, look at that. A nice little plug for my new YouTube series, Posh Bites, with little 1-minute videos on PowerShell. But either way, we can take that same data. So we have all of these times, we can see all these last write times. Again, kind of difficult to group on, but I want to see, by day, right? So I'm going to do the same thing that I did before. I'm going to do my group timestamp. I'm going to tell it the property. This time is the last write time every 1 days, right? Now I can see it's, calculated out to the days, And then it's also grouped all the objects inside of there. So what that allows me to do is, I want to see how much data I've written in a day, right? So then I get the measure timestamp one where I can actually take a property that's inside of that grouping and sum it, average it, max it, minimize it, right? And get all of that information in there. So, I can see on 10.7 where I had a huge spike in the number of files that were created, right? This can be, very useful in multiple instances, right? You're looking at log files, all of a sudden your directory is filling up. Well, what happened? Okay, on this day, all of a sudden all these files showed up, or there may be only a couple files in there, but they're a lot larger than normal. Those type of things. It allows you to, quickly come in here and see your different objects, right? So we can do, our average, our max, and our min, just like the measure object works, right? Same basic function, right? So we can see our average here, our maximum. So this would let us know if, hey, maybe there was just one file that got really big, and that was the only thing that happened, right? And anything that you have, log files, where you're looking through, pull down sign in logs from from Office 365, and you want to be able to see, hey, when can I, when was there all these like failed logins and things like that, trying to be able to correlate those to different times and different time periods and things. This can really help you out quite a bit on here. And now, some new functionality, and this will be released later today in version 1.0.5, but I do have some new commandlets that are coming out, and you guys get to be the first to see them. So a one that does a date summary. So you take a list of dates and you say, give me the date summary between this, right? So all I'm doing here is just getting 15-minute increments, right? So I can see my earliest time, my latest time, it spanned over 2 hours. Obviously the gaps and everything are all going to be exactly the same because all I did was just tell it to multiply by 15 each time, right? But let's go back to our event logs. If I take a look at the event logs that we had earlier, I can, calculate those based on the time generated. So I can see that, there's been 538 of them happened. The earliest, the latest, how long it's been going on, the number of unique days that's happened on. So, it's been happening for, 300 days, but only about half of them it's actually triggered on. So that, that kind of tells me, hey, where can I look? Maybe I'm doing something at that time when those are happening, those type of things. Just being able to get that kind of information and being able to make, quick determinations. There was at one point, there was a 15-day gap. What happened there? My guess is that was when I was on vacation, but either way. And it's actually even smart enough to be able to figure out, what is a date time and what isn't, right? So you got a nice little list of objects here. It's going to go through and it's going to just filter out on only what is a date. So you don't even have to clean your data up too much. And it comes back and tells you, I skipped these many because they weren't dates and those type of things. Another fun one. Is it Friday the 13th? No, it's not. It's a Tuesday. But the next Friday the 13th is going to be in February next year. And it's going to happen in 4 months, 1 day, 12 hours, 10 minutes, and 43 seconds from now. So, want to know how I got that? That's another new commandlet that we have in here. So let's take a look and see when is Christmas. So this is your normal time span, in PowerShell and .NET. You get your days, hours, minutes, seconds, but then there's your total days, total hours. Yes, this is very precise, very, exactly what it is that you expect it to be. Not the prettiest to look at, right? So our new one is format time span, and you can pass it in a time span, and it will give you back your nice printed out version in here. We can even do different cultures, right? So let's go ahead and this is PSConf EU. So let's do it in German. And my 2 years of high school German, I will not try to pronounce most of that. I will just kind of make a fool of myself on that. But yes, and then we can even come back through, do some. Yesterday was Canadian Thanksgiving, so let's do our French Canadian. A, and then just one more for some fun. It would be our good friends down in Australia. I don't know if this time works for them, but you can, if you've met an Australian, you can probably figure out what the 3 stars mean at the end. Get command module PSDates. These are all the different versions that are all the different command listing functions that are out there for you to use with this. Again, it's all out on GitHub, so you're free to go and make suggestions, get some ideas. The Suntime one was actually a suggestion that came in from James Brundage. He was working on some stuff and needed to know what time the sun set, and he was like, "Hey, can you add that in there?" Yeah, sure, why not? It was a fun little project to try to get through and get that. But some kind of fun ways to be able to make things easier in your life when working with dates and date formats. And I know I'm always working with different versions of JSON and APIs and trying to figure out exactly what it is that they want and need. So with that, I'll go ahead and I can open up to questions, or I can dig into some of the code if anybody is interested in seeing some of the behind the scenes on any of those. A fun one here. So I've actually started building in localizations into this, and this will be up on GitHub later today. But if anybody can help improve like I said, my 2 years of high school German, or any other languages that they want to add into here, that'd be great. We can even do the same thing for like the cron descriptions. Everything else will automatically use your local time, right? So they get date time extended. That's built, that it actually inherits in the get date and the date time struct from PowerShell, so that you can, it's automatically in your culture. Yeah. Now, got a question? Anything else we'd like to go over or take a look at? If anybody wants to see how we can actually calculate the sunrise time, there it is for you. So we're actually converting to Julian date, and mean solar time. Full disclosure, I stole this from Python and converted it into PowerShell. I'm not that big on math. It's been a while since I took calculus as well.